read. Don't know if I'm going to end up reading all 7 books I intended to by the time that I read as much as I did. And you probably guessed from the title that what I'm doing right here is the final challenge of this readathon. So the Reading Rush Challenge number 7 is simply share a story of a book recommendation. And the 2 stories that I want to share aren't really recommendations so much as they were, well, as they were read-alouds that impacted what I read now and how I read it. The first one that I wanted to talk about actually is a poem. Yeah, I know. There was, in high school, my senior English literature teacher, Miss Breslin. She was trying to prepare us for exams as much as possible, but she also wanted to take the time for us to actually read and enjoy the literature for what it was, despite us having to read 2 to 3 books every week. The reading that I remember the most, though, is a reading of T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Man. And it was up until that point where I avoided any poetry that didn't rhyme. I always liked my Shel Silverstein, Robert Louis Stevenson, Robert Frost, etc. I avoided anything in free verse or blank verse because I'm like, hey, poems are supposed to be like songs. Why would I want them if they don't rhyme? And then it wasn't until that she read it there in class that I realized I missed the whole point. Poems can be turned into songs, yes. But the point of poetry is for the author to express ideas, to express thoughts, and ultimately create images that you wouldn't be able to otherwise in the form of narrative or in the form of just simply describing your life. Especially the final lines of the poem, "This is the way the world ends." This is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper. Eliot's way of saying that the way things end in life don't always end the way you expect them to. And so those are the poems I've come to appreciate the most. The poems that defy expectations, those that look to do things differently, because differences are what make life interesting. Okay, and the second story I wanted to share was back from when I was 9 years old. Yes, I know we're going back in time. Back in time to when my father used to read aloud to my sister and I all the time. And we'd pick out books from the library all the time. Sometimes historical fiction, sometimes a few whimsical fantasy picture books, and a few chapter books here and there. Sometimes things that starred animals. Now, the book that set the course for me as a reader was when he sat down to read this book that began describing a hole, and in that hole lived a hobbit. Yes, the Hobbit. Yes, and that book is what I personally consider to be the greatest introduction to high fantasy ever. If you know anyone for me, it was able to capture things of this world in such a way that I didn't really think of it before, like understanding how dangerous a river could be when you're floating down in barrels, and yet understanding how dangerous greed can be, and that it can actually tear friends apart. It nearly did. Spoilers. Also, Also the way the greed thing happened in the movie, they completely missed the point of it in the book. But that's another video for another day. But The Hobbit is important to me. Not only did it introduce me to some beloved characters such as Bilbo Baggins, Gandalf the Grey. It introduced me to the world of Middle-earth. A world that let me know that, hey, fantasy doesn't just have to be about children encountering fairies or talking animals. I mean, those showed up in The Hobbit, but it's so much more than that. It was through these books, it was through the Book of the Hobbit that I was able to dive into the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Several years later, Fellowship of the Ring releases in theaters, and my life was never the same. Now, I realize I'm not fully answering the question as to how my life was never the same. Well, to answer that question, just keep watching the videos I release, because I became a reader. Like, I was a reader before then, but I was an avid reader after that. I was willing to explore any world that was put in front of me, even if it's exploring more things about the real world and nonfiction. The Hobbit is the read that did it for me. So thank you, Dad, for reading that to myself and my sister. So I want to hear from you down below in the comments. What book did you read that set the course for you as a reader? Are there any poems that you found to be life-changing, or are there any poems that you just simply enjoy because of how nice they sound? That's something I always liked about poetry. There's a poem for everyone. It's just a matter of you finding out which one's for you. So, I hope you all finish strong. And if you're catching this video on Monday the 29th or later, I'll just catch you in the next video. Enjoy your reading, enjoy your life, and happy reading. Bye.